Ciao amici, sono Danielle. Oggi sono nell'aula dove insegno Italiano 1. I'm in the classroom where I teach Italian 1 e uso la lavagna qui per questa lezione. So I'm going to use the board here for our lesson. So today's lesson is going to be on the last of the regular verb sets, the last two. I've done the ARE verb set. So now we're going to do verbs that end in ERE and verbs that end in IRE. So like I've said before in other videos, there are 3 sets of regular verbs. So once you know the formula for the specific set, then it's really easy to form the conjugations because you just have to memorize the specific formula, and it's true for all of these verbs that are in this set. So if you haven't watched the video yet on subject pronouns and regular verbs, I would recommend that you start off watching that. And then also, if you haven't watched the video on regular verbs that end in ERE, I would recommend that you watch that first too. Va bene? Allora, cominciamo. Okay, so let's begin. So ERE verbs, they do the exact same thing when they're regular as the verbs in ARE. So that's why I wanted you to watch that first. So I'm gonna write it down in the infinitive form. And the infinitive form, remember, means it's the verb in its general form before it's been conjugated according to different subjects. So we're doing verbs that end in ERE, so this verb is going to end in ERE. Va bene? So, il verbo è prendere. Prendere is the verb to take. So, if you have watched the video on fare, you know there's a lot of idiomatic expressions that they translate as to take, but they actually use the verb fare to do or to make. So when you use prendere, usually if you take a person, you're going to use the verb portare. Per esempio, if I'm taking my daughter to school, I don't say prendo mia figlia, I say porto. I'm bringing my daughter. Porto mia figlia a scuola. Va bene? But I can say I'm taking the train, prendo il treno. I can say I'm taking the medicine, prendo la medicina. And then you're going to use prendere also with ordering food or drink. So if you're in a cafe and you want to order something, you could say prendo un cappuccino. Or same if you're ordering, you say you're in a pizzeria and you want to get a pizza, you could say prendo una pizza margarita. Va bene? So I'm going to lay out the framework like we do when we conjugate verbs. So all of the subject pronouns. Okay. È chiaro? I can't really tell. So io, I, tu, you, singular, lui, he, lei, she, and then I forgot the you formal, lei, you singular and formal, noi, we, voi, you plural, and loro, they. Va bene? So just like in the ARE verb video, you're going to look at the verb in the infinitive and you're going to get rid of that ending. So the ERE ending, we're going to write a box and we're going to eliminate, and then we're going to be left with that root, prend. And then we're going to take that and we're going to put it in each of the conjugations. Ecco. Okay, so now we have our root, our basis, our foundation for adding the formula down. And so this is the formula for all regular verbs that end in ERE. It's very similar to verbs that end in ARE, but notice the differences. How about I'll use this pen. So the formula is O, E, iamo, ete, onno. O, iamo, ete, onno. So like I said last time, sing it and try to memorize it, write it on a piece of paper, just whatever you can do to remember the formula. But notice the differentiation between now ERE verbs and ARE verbs. So it's the same in the io conjugation, same in the tu conjugation, same in the noi conjugation. Actually, for all of the regular verb sets, ARE, ERE, and IRE, those are all the same. The differentiation is the lui, lei, it's going to end in E if it's an ERE verb, and the voi form ends in ete, not ate, and the loro form ends in ono, not hanno. So let's say this verb conjugation together. Ripetete. Io prendo, tu prendi, lui, lei prende, noi prendiamo, voi prendete, loro prendono. Benissimo, bravi. Okay, so cancello. Okay, so what is the formulaic ending for all regular ERE verbs? Did you get that yet? If you haven't, go back and watch it again. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. O, I, e, iamo, ette, ono. Va bene? Okay, so now I'm going to ask you how to say a couple of things just with the verb prendere, because I also want to do the IRE verb set, and I don't want this video to be too long. So, come si dice, we are ordering a pizza. Prendiamo una pizza. Ok, benissimo. Come si dice, they are getting or ordering a coffee. Prendono un caffè. Molto bene. E l'ultimo, let's see, I'm taking the bus. Prendo l'autobus. Okay, benissimo. I'm not going to introduce any other verbs that end in ERE. And like I said, if you should have some kind of reference, another book, because there are books that give you lists of regular verbs that end in ERE, and then you'll know that those verbs you can use with this formula because they're regular. You can buy my book, The ABCs of Italian Travel, or there's many other books out there as well. So now what we're going to look at are verbs that end in IRE, regular verbs that end in IRE. The tricky thing about IRE verbs, though, there are two sets. So we are going to do set one right now for IRE verbs. And the verb that we'll use as an example is the verb dormire, dormire. You can tell probably what that means because it has the root dorm in it. And if you think of English words like dormitory, okay, so this is the verb to sleep. Va bene? So same thing that we always do, we're going to get rid of that ending. So I'm going to write a box around it and cross it out, okay? And then we're left with the root dorm. Now I'm going to go through and put all the subject pronouns in. So I'm going to write down, I know it's tedious in the very beginning when you're starting to learn, but I would recommend that you do this until you get the endings memorized and then you know exactly what to put. So that whole IRE is gone, so we're left with dorm. Bene. So the formula for set one IRE verbs is almost identical to the verbs that we just saw, the ERE verb set. There's only one difference, and it is here in the voi conjugation. So see if you can remember what it is for the ERE verbs, and maybe if you have your piece of paper out, see if you can conjugate this on your own, knowing that all 5 of these conjugations are the exact same as they are for the ERE verbs. So take a minute, you might pause the video, and I'm going to fill those endings in. So, o, I, e, iamo, ono, exactly the same as the ERE verb. So voi is different. So for the ARE verbs, the voi form ends in ate. For the ERE verbs, the voi form ends in ete. So what do you think the voi form ends for the IRE verbs? Ite, sì. Benissimo. So ripetete, io dormo, tu dormi, lui, lei dorme, noi dormiamo, voi dormite, loro dormono. Benissimo. Okay, so how you tell most of the time, not all of the time, maybe 80% of the time, I don't know, I just made that number up, how a verb, an IRE verb that's regular is in set one, is you look at the infinitive ending okay? And you count 5 letters back. So we're here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th letter back is an R. So if the 5th letter back is a consonant, then the verb belongs in set 1. If the 5th letter back is a vowel, the verb belongs in set 2. Va bene? So this is a rule. I said you can use some of the time, like 80% of the time, but I would recommend also, and you'll do this as you keep studying, you'll just memorize which verbs belong in set 1 and which verbs belong in set 2. So now let's look at verbs that are in set 2. Keep my subject pronouns. Okay, set 2. So let's look at a verb that we use a lot, capire. Capire is a regular IRE verb, but it belongs in set 2. And if you have watched Italian movies, you might have heard slangs or dialects of this, capisce. So that would be, like I said, a dialect. This is the standard Italian, so I'm going to show you how it's conjugated. So just like always, we're going to get rid of that ending. Ire is gone, so cap is going to be the root or the foundation that goes in all of the conjugations. So in set 2 verbs, I told you earlier that if you count 5 letters back and the letter is a vowel, it belongs in set 2. So let's see if this rule applies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, si. So the letter A, the vowel A, is the 5th letter back. So it does follow this rule. It belongs in set 2. So what happens in set 2 is I'm going to star now. I'm going to take away this star here. And I'm going to put a star on the conjugations for io, tu, lui, lei, and loro. Because on all of those conjugations, you're going to add ISC before you add the end that we just saw from set 1. Okay, so io, tu, lui, lei, and loro, you have to add that ISC first. So let's add that. So now we can add the formulaic ending that we just saw from set 1. So do you remember what it is? Take a minute, see if you can remember that. And again, it's the same as from the ERE verb sets, right? This was the one that was different, the voi, but we haven't looked at that one yet. We're just doing the io, tu, lui, lei, and loro. So the endings are, let's see, la rosa, o, e, and onno. Va bene? So the noi form is the same for all regular verbs, whether it ends in ARE, ERE, or IRE. And these two, the noi and voi, I did not star, so that means that we're not going to add the isk, so just the regular ending. So for the noi, we add iamo, and then the voi form is the same for set 1. So it's what? Ite, bravi. Okay, va bene. So notice that there's an S-C combination. And so that C is kind of tricky. Depending on what follows it, it changes from a ch sound to a k sound. But when you have the SC together, it's either going to sound like sh or it's going to sound like sk. So when the SC is followed by an I or an E, it's going to sound like sh. When it's followed by an O, A, U, or H, it's going to sound like sk. So we have both of those sounds in this conjugation. So ripetete. Io capisco. Tu capisci. Lui, lei capisce. Noi capiamo. Voi capite. Loro capiscono. Molto bene. So that's it. That is the conjugation for second set IRE verbs. I'll write down a few more IRE verbs that are in the second set. There are more verbs in set 1 of the IREs than in set 2. So other verbs that you will commonly see in set 2 are finire is to finish. Preferire is to prefer. Pulire, to clean. E suggerire, to suggest. Va bene? Okay, cancello. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you how to say a few sentences with the IRE set 1 and the IRE set 2. So I only gave you the example of dormire for set 1. So you know that those, when we say that verb, you're not going to add the isk. So the other verbs that I gave you are going to. So, come si dice, you singular, sleep a lot. Dormi molto. Bene. Allora, come si dice, he understands the lesson, which is hopefully what you are all experiencing. Capisce la lezione. Bene. Allora, come si dice, we sleep for 8 hours. Dormiamo per 8 ore. Benissimo. E allora, l'ultimo, come si dice, I'm cleaning the bathroom. Pulisco il bagno. Pulisco il bagno. Va bene? Okay, so now what I'm going to do, the last thing, is I'm going to write all of the regular verb sets, ARE, ERE, IRE, set 1 and 2, with their formulaic endings on the end, so you can just see it all together. Okay. Okay, eccolo. There it is. So this is, I didn't write the subject pronouns in, but this is the formulaic ending for each of the sets of regular verbs. So if it ends in ARE, the formula is O, I, A, iamo, ate, anno. If it ends in ERE, the formula is O, I, E, iamo, ete, onno. If it's a set 1 IRE verb, the formula is O, I, E, iamo, ite, onno. Verbs that in set 2, the formula is isco, ishi, isce, iamo, ite, iscono. So last thing, remember, for all of the verb sets, all regular verbs, whether they're in an ARE, ERE, or IRE, for all 3 of the verb sets, well, here the ending is also after you add the isk, but they all regular verbs in the io form are going to end in o. All regular verbs in the to form are going to end in I in English, I in Italiano, and for the noi form, they're always going to end in iamo. Va bene? So remember that. So I hope this lesson helped you. Grazie per essere venuti alla mia lezione qui e come sempre continuate a studiare e ci vediamo alla prossima lezione. Ok? Ciao!